Let's lock and load.
It was-
We'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. I'll introduce the panel members first. Linda McFadden to my left, Richard Whitbread to my far left. I'm Marcel Laronde, who I'll be chairing. Our assessor today will be Tricia Caldwell, and our administrative assistant will be Katie Sutherland. We'll be hearing applications for revision of assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Act. The matters for which revisions is requested have been described in each application, and we'll limit discussions to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matter must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and will issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to an application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record, and I'd ask you please all to put your cell phones on silent. Swear them in, please.
Please state your name, Tricia Caldwell. Do you affirm that the evidence you are presenting is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you very much. Please state your name.
Bradford Scott Borgston.
Do you swear that the evidence you are presenting is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much.
We will be starting with number 2, and it's the 238 Dufferin Avenue, amount of assessed value. Tricia, when you are ready.
Roll number 14001155500. For the 2020 roll year, we have an assessed value of $2,079,000.
Can you give us the file number 2, Tricia? Just because sometimes
Okay.
there's a difference.
Oh, sorry. File number 19-3485.
Thank you.
And we're seeking non-compliance on this.
And just to expedite matters, we do not oppose the assessor's request.
Okay, and then once you finish reading the information on it, we're going to go over to him.
Okay.
I'm just trying to speed it up.
Oh.
Just this portion.
Yep.
Like everything, not just the value?
No, you did the value already?
Yes.
Good enough.
Okay.
On to you. You don't have to read any of the other stuff.
Yeah, we don't oppose.
No, but you're still going to have to, you're saying it's okay, you're going to have to go first.
I'm sorry, and so I'm gonna recommend that we reduce the value to $1,773,000.
$1,773,000. Is that what you're recommending?
That is our recommendation.
That's a dual recommendation? Okay, so.
Joint, not dueling.
Joint. Dual. And we've accepted the assessor's request.
Yeah, obviously I've not had time to discuss the matter with my client, but we're not opposing it, and not making submission on it.
$1,773,000. Thank you. Get on. Thank you. Number 3 is 1545 Brookside Boulevard. When you are ready, Trish. Assessed value.
Roll number 14096660700. For the 2020 roll year, we have an assessed value of $4,669,000. This is a flex warehouse property, 1 story, built between 1974 and 1977, with wall heights 14 and 16 feet. It's zoned M1 and has a land to plan area of 2.83. You see on page 2 a list of the subject leases. And on page 3, you can see some exterior photographs of the property. And on page 4, you can see the overhead view of the different buildings on the property. Page 5, we have our cap rate chart. You'll see highlighted under industrial, 60% of our cap rates fall between 6.34% and 7.8%. Then we'll turn to the income workup, page 6 through 7. We have several business premises totaling 60,960 square feet, and we have an overall rent of $5.81. Vacancy, this is market region vacancy at 3.5%, 2% for expenses, shortfall of $3.75, a 7% cap rate, bringing us to our value of $4,669,000.
You guys have that for this. Questions? Brad?
I do have actually just very few, and so the property is leased. It's tenant occupied, it's not owner occupied.
Right.
And the rents, or the lease comparables that you show on your page 8 are all contract rents, correct?
Yes.
And you're in here today suggesting that we not use the contract rents in place on the subject, correct?
Well, I'm not suggesting, well, if we use contract rents, not all contract rents are market rate, that's why we use the model.
And you know what the definition of a market rent is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Willing landlord, willing tenant, each acting in their own best interest, uninfluenced or by undue stimuli.
Yes.
Very similar to the definition of market value, right?
Correct.
So all of the tenancies in the subject property, are you aware of any of them that don't meet that test?
No, I'm not.
Now, the vacancy loss is model driven at 3.5%.
That's correct.
And this property is located in the northwest quadrant, actually out. I don't know that I would describe it as Inkster Industrial Park, but it's out in that area.
Yes.
And that is the only evidence you have with respect to vacancy rate?
Yes.
And the capitalization rate is model driven,
It is.
and that's using hypothetical rents, right?
That's correct.
And so on page 1, you show wall heights. There are a number of buildings on this property, right?
Yes.
And the wall heights range between 14 and 16 feet, correct?
Yes.
Is that a risk factor that might attract the higher risk to it?
Yes.
Those are my questions, thank you.
Linda, any questions?
I don't have any additional questions.
Okay, Richard?
No.
No? And let's get on with your presentation then, Brad.
Okay, and so short and sweet, I actually inspected this property in preparation for the 2018 appeal on it. I have attached at the rear, I believe it was with Mr. Boardroom, I have attached our photographs taken at that time, and you can see, I'm going to let you go through them on your own, but pages 16 and following, and you can see, even just looking at page 17, this is not what you would describe as a high-quality industrial space. You can see the very low wall height. It is flex style. Page 18, and we were in not all of the interior units, but only some of them. Page 18 will give you a flavor for some of the space, and then I'll let you carry through the rest of it. So we took a look at the actual rents in place, and those start on our page 7. carry over to page 8. As with every other lease property that I come in with, I think that the contract rents in place, unless there's reason to disregard them, actually in place are what we see we should use. That's exactly what we've done here. And I just want to point out that our rent works up to $5.90 a square foot, which is slightly higher than the city's overall rate. We're applying the actual contract rents. We do show some additional information with respect to vacancy, and I realize now, or realize just after I submitted these, that I have included St. James. The vacancy statistics from the Johnson report for Inkster Industrial Park very closely mirror that. And in fact, our requested vacancy allowance at 6% for this property, even though I've shown the St. James information, we use exactly the same rate for St. James and for Inkster based on the Johnson report. The thing that I do want to point out really quickly on page 9, you'll see there, and we've looked at 10 years of historical vacancies reported. The Winnipeg rate is 3%. That includes owner-occupied space, as does the following statistic for St. James and Inkster Industrial Park as well. That distorts downward the actual vacancy. This property is leased. It is expected to suffer from the same sort of vacancy rates as the market. I'm going to take a moment at this point in time and just go over some of the information in our industrial cap rate study, and I know you've all seen it before. But I'm just going to highlight some of the analysis we did with respect to the Northwest Quadrant. Now, I know when I was in here yesterday, turns out I only copied every other page, so I'm wondering if we have all of the pages. Yes, okay. So, starting at page 5, I took a look at what's going on not only within the city, but in the immediately surrounding areas. On page 6, I've included a map, and of significant concern for the subject property would be all the development going on in the RM Rosser in terms of Brookside Industrial, Brookside Business Park, and the ongoing development that's up in there. Am I going too fast?
I'm still trying to find the page.
Okay.
This is the
Yeah, this is the
industrial property.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'll flip you over to page 6.
Yep. Got it.
That, and in particular, not only for St. James, but in particular for the Inkster Industrial Park with its older stock, with its lower, generally speaking, lower wall height stock, poses a significant level or degree of competition, and that poses additional risk for properties like this subject. The other thing I looked at on page 7 was some of the development going on, not only in the Armagh Rosser, but in the surrounding areas. West St. Paul, if we've driven along the north perimeter, we know that West St. Paul has been developing, and all of that arises from the availability of water in the western Marcoa. The interesting statistic that I've noted on page 7 is that of all of the industrial lands developed in the 4 or 5 years preceding the reference date, 2/3 of them are outside of the city of Winnipeg. So you have a ratio of 2/3 outside, 1/3 inside. And so that poses, in my mind, in my opinion, additional risks. So, carrying on with our submission, again, we are looking to 6% vacancy rate for the subject property. There is no disagreement with shortfall rate at $375 per square foot. I'm on page 12. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. I'm trying to go fast.
We'll catch up.
Yeah. And so what we have here are a number of structures, and maybe I'll just back up to page 4. That gives you a better idea of the number. So there's 5 buildings on the site. They all have low wall height. They all have low clear ceiling height. And the pictures at the back will show you what's inside them. We did not get into the long sloped roof structure. Nobody was home, so I have no idea what's in there. Locked doors used for storage. From the outside, it certainly appeared that there was no office development in those spaces at all. In any event, so it's all low wall height, low ceiling. The capitalization rate based on the age and the low wall height, we think 8% is more appropriately applied. We're gonna go through the mathematics on page 13. We're looking for a reduction to $3,804,000. And I am open for questions.
Tricia?
Okay, Mr. Boardroom, did you have this? Brad, did you represent this client for 2018?
I did.
Did you appeal this beyond the?
My recollection is that there was a recommendation made at the board revision. Our value was lower than what was agreed to, but my recollection is that there was a recommendation made on this property, which was accepted and not appealed further, to my recollection.
Okay. Because this value that you're seeking is below 2018.
Yeah. And as I said, the value we submitted for 2018 would have been lower than the recommended, than the value recommended by Mr. Butler online that hearing.
Okay.
Am I talking loud enough for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
So if I look at the expenses, you've included the income and expense information.
Yeah.
Did you happen to look at their net income?
I did not.
Okay. So, on page 32, their net income is 2013 506, 507.
Yeah.
What would happen if you removed things like bank charges, mortgage interest, previous year?
Bank charges I would leave in. These are not, these are not mortgage payments. Bank charges are associated with the operation, normal everyday operation of many properties, so I would certainly leave those in.
Okay.
I would agree that the non-recoverable capital expenditures should be removed, as should the mortgage interest. So that takes us up close to, I don't know, a little north of 300,000, which is kind of where we're at.
How about vacant units, utilities? Would that not go to shortfall?
That should be recovered under the shortfall, absolutely, but that's what, $700.
Okay, and there's case law saying leasing commissions should not be included?
No, that's not what those decisions say. It's, you're referring to municipal board decisions, and we've gone over them. I'm happy to debate it again. But what the municipal board decisions suggest is that you don't use it to reduce the net effective rents. They are still operating costs associated with the normal everyday operation of buildings. And just having said all of that, I would suggest that our net operating income pretty close to what they're reporting here. But I also, if I was looking at it the other way, wouldn't use a single year. Take a look at a number of years to try and see if there are hiccups, if you will, to smooth out any anomalies.
But you're comparing yours and saying yours is closer to?
I'm not. You drew the attention. I think if you add all those things back in, it's going to be pretty close to what we're using.
I disagree.
And I stand to be correct, that was just eyeball.
Okay. Okay. What about previous year CAM costs, should that be?
Well, it depends, right? And that's why you look at more than a single year to stabilize anomalies. Should those be applied to the previous year and reduce that net operating income? So if we were going to take that approach on the property, I would need to look at more than a single year.
Okay, those are all my questions, thank you.
Much the same approach as we use on apartment buildings where we stabilize 3 years.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Richard?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Linda?
I'm fine as well.
I'll be good. I can do my figure me out later. We'll move on to the next property, which will be 400 Kuwait Street. Assessed value. Correct. When you're ready, Trish.
Roll number 0709162300. For the 2020 roll year, we have an assessed value of $1,815,000, and we are seeking non-compliance on this property.
Brad,
We do not oppose the
not
request.
opposing it, so let's accept, we're gonna accept your non-compliance then. And you're starting.
Sorry, I was looking ahead. She's,
Gonna make a rec?
no. She has read in all the information we need?
Yes.
Okay. So this property at 400 Kuwaitan is actually just north of the underpass, on the west side. Again, I inspected this property in preparation for the appeal in respect of 2018. And I've included those pictures at the back. There is, much of the construction is newer, and that arises from a fire on this location, and so they had to rebuild. I'm gonna let you go through it, but on page 16, the office space is upstairs actually, so you see there on the top of page 16, that's the office space. On the bottom of page 16, that's actually adjacent to the second floor, so this is mezzanine space, low ceiling height, similar underneath. But you'll see there really how you have limited sort of space above your head there. Open space, no walls. You can get a better view downward on page 17. And then the other thing I want to point you to is on page 18 at the top, that is the area underneath the second floor office and mezzanine space I just pointed to. So here we have space that is much less functional in terms of industrial use. So as soon as you have mezzanine space or a situation like this, you end up with lower wall height for that section. And on page 22 at the top, so 21 and then 22 at the top, those are the west side of the building that you'll see in the pictures at the front. I believe it's some of the older structure that was left intact. It has a sort of a weird roof and lower, at the walls at least, lower. Once you get away from the wall a little bit, it's a little more functional. So, bottom of page 22, that's actually the reception area as you walk up the stairs. So, again, property was built in 1976 with 1990 construction. I believe the city has a 1978 effective year built on the property. And that is confirmed on Sorry, 97, yeah, that's a typo.
97, 2000.
Yeah. We're going so fast. So we have here a total building area of 17,475 square feet. That includes the mezzanine space, and we show the details on page 3. So you have 14-foot wall height for the rear building, 21-foot wall height for the front building, but again, some of that is chopped in half. As you look at the picture in the bottom, the easternmost section is where the office and the mezzanine space is, and below that will be the lower wall height underneath. Land to building ratio is 2.79 to 1. It's a little on the skinny side, but not to the extent that I would actually get fussed up about it and make an adjustment for that. There is a sign visible in some of the photographs that is not on this property, that is on the adjacent property, not owned by this owner. So we took a look, it is owner occupied or related corporation, so we took a look at a number of rental comparables out in this sort of general quadrants, in the general area on page 6. They are by and large newer. I also looked for the area. So there's a range of rents there. They average out 629 and 620. For this particular building, with its physical characteristics and location, I thought $6.50 a square foot would be an appropriate rent to apply. This property is technically in St. James with its roll number, so we could again show the St. James vacancy rates. In St. James, we conclude, as I indicated earlier, 6% for a vacancy rate. And no disagreement with shortfall, non-recovered expenses, we continue to use 7. In this particular case, because of the somewhat limited wall height inside and at the rear of the building, I thought that 7% was more appropriate. And so we're looking for a reduction to $1,362,000. I think that's the information. Let's go by and open for questions.
Tricia, questions?
Uh-oh, red mark?
You're in trouble now.
My pen ran out.
Sorry, Tricia.
For your, no worries. Page 6, your rental comparable.
Yeah.
Index 4, you have 30 Hutchings. Are you aware that they're owner occupied?
30 Hutchings?
Yes.
So I can tell you that that was a rental rate presented by the city in the previous affiliate. And they presented it as an arm's length lease. And so, no, I was not aware.
Okay. Well,
And if you're suggesting that that's the case, and I believe you,
okay.
then I'll have our records amended, but it was previously submitted as a rental comparable, and in fact it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, in respect of the appeal on 170 Eagle Drive.
Oh, but,
Okay.
okay. It's a bit of an older lease. Index 4 is also owner.
Isn't that the one we just talked about?
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Index 3?
On Plymouth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you aware that's owner occupied?
So again, that was used by the city in a previous appeal hearing. That was actually used last cycle for this property.
So you use city sometimes like from,
Well, we
Briefs
certainly
or-
record the city's information, and when the city comes in and I appreciate it's not your fault, but when they come in here and say these are all arm's length net leases, absent any additional information, we accept that. So that's exactly, and so that property was used for this property last
Okay.
cycle.
so when I'm looking at any of your comparable properties, I'm looking at 2017, so if it was used in a previous assessment, any rents that we would have used?
Well, except
would have
that
been-
certainly 2014 and 2015 fall within a range of rents that the city uses this cycle. I've seen leases going back to 2011 and 12 this cycle. So the fact that they're older doesn't mean that they, and I appreciate that you've indicated they're not arm's length leases, but they certainly fall within the range of time that the city has used.
Fair enough. Index 2, you indicated a leasable area of 25,700 and, sorry,
26,735?
26,735
Yep,
at $4.75.
yep.
Do you know if they've had a step up?
I do not, again, that's a city rental rate report.
Okay,
And it's entirely possible that it was.
okay.
And just knowing what I know of our leasing activity, my guess would be there was a 2018 step on it, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. And also one Winfield Way, or 15 Winfield Way, index number 1.
Well, it looks like the lease ends May 31st of 18, and I don't know what happened after that.
Okay, those are all my questions, thank you.
Linda?
I have no further questions.
Richard?
Nothing, thanks.
Nothing. On with your presentation then, Tricia.
So, Mr. Brad.
Mr. Brad?
Yes. Already went through the physical aspects of the property, so I won't go again through that. And we also looked at his photographs. So I'll just go right to our income workup. This is model driven. We have the leasable area of 17,475 square feet with a rent of $6.73. Vacancy at 3.5%, 2% expenses, $3.75 for shortfall rate, cap rate of 6%, and giving us our value of $1,815,000. And then I have some rental comparables on page 7. All comparables are in the subject market region with lower wall heights, with rents between $5.73 and $8.90 to support our table rent of $6.73. I do also, I think I have 2 comparables on Keewatin that have higher rents than the subject property. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Brad, do you have any questions?
Just a couple. 344 Oak Point Highway, that's been retired.
Yes, it is.
That would be more a vehicle service garage. I
Uh,
like the rental rate, I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, it's,
Okay. Now, you're showing here a June 1st, 2018 lease start date. Do you know if that's a lease renewal or a step up?
for which,
Year 1 on 15 Winfield?
oh, do I know if it's a lease renewal? I don't know.
And so being June 1st of 18, should we
Oh.
remove it?
Yeah, you can remove that. Sorry, I did not realize that.
And you'll, let's go back this now. 370 Keewatin and 380 Keewatin are part of 360 Keewatin, correct? Or are they separate?
I'm not certain.
Okay, and that's fine. In looking at your rental rates though, $6.50 a square foot falls within that range? Would you agree?
I would agree with that.
And with the other questions applied as asked and answered, those are my questions.
Richard, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, thanks.
Linda?
I do not.
Okay, that will conclude the matter of this property. Let's move on to the next one, at 200 Oak Point Highway, amount of assessed value. When you are ready, Tricia.
All right, rule number 140963444400. For the 2020 rule year, we have an assessed value of $1,637,000. I have a recommendation for this property to reduce the value to $1,253,000.
253,
Yes.
and the reason being, or what are you doing?
We are adjusting the cap rate.
Just in cap?
We have also reduced the surplus land value.
Surplus rents. Yeah,
Oh, and rent, yes, you're right.
and rent.
Um,
So you've adjusted it.
Yes.
Are you okay with that number?
We're not opposing and we're not making further submission on the file.
$1,253,000 rec from the city with a number of adjustments. And we'll leave it at that.
That's funny.
We'll let them figure it out, they talk it through. Let's move on to the next property then, 635 McPhillips Street. When you are ready, and it's the assessed value again. When you're ready, Trish.
Okay, roll number 14002962500. For the 2020 roll year, we have an assessed value of $1,225,000. It's a one-story building with an effective year of 1956. Oh, and I'm seeking non-compliance on this property.
Okay. Brad, you were challenging it?
No.
It's accepted then. So Brad, you fire it up to project.
I really like arguing that issue, I just can't today. Okay, so, page 3, this is related to Praxair, and it's their facility on McPhillips Street. I can show you the years of construction in the different sections on page 3, and at the bottom you can see all the varying wall heights of these structures. The largest component of this property, which represents, I believe, about 80% of the 75 or 80% of the structure, was built in 1951, 20-foot wall height. My apologies. The other sections were added, and you can see they're between 12 and 20 feet in height. I show oblique views of the property on page 4, just to sort of give you a better flavor of it. This is not a prime location. The site is irregularly configured, and while it has a roughly 5-to-1 land to building ratio, the configuration reduces the effective usable area, still not to a point where I get fussed about it. So, owner-occupied, related corporation, and so we took a look at a number of rental comparables. We showed them all on page 7. And they're all of a vintage, and they are all of a size, not terrible. They're smaller than the subject, but certainly of a vintage overall similar to that. Based on all of that, we've applied $475 a square foot. And just for your reference, the city is applying $573 a square foot. Exactly the same information with respect to vacancy. Again, this property in its location, I believe, falls under the, or is encompassed by the Johnson report as part of St. James in their survey. So again, we are applying 6%. 375 shortfall, 7% on the cover expenses. The city has applied an 8.3% capitalization rate. We agree with that. That's what we've applied in our analysis. So vacancy and rent and the non-recoverable are the issues here, and we're looking for a reduction to $952,000. And I'm open for questions.
Tricia, questions?
The value you're seeking is less than 2016 level.
Previous assessed values are not my starting point. I don't know whether it was approved or not.
I do agree with you on that.
Has something happened in the market or to the property that it's
Based
not
on
as valuable?
based on the current market evidence I've looked at, this is my opinion of value.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Richard?
No?
Linda?
I have none.
Let's move on to your presentation then. Tricia? Linda?
Hmm?
You
No,
move
I'm
on
going
to
to
the
do your
presentation.
presentation.
Okay, I will just skip again to the income workup
On page,
on page 7. We have a leasable area of 20,120 square feet. We have mill rate of $5.73, 6% vacancy, 2% expenses, shortfall of $3.75. Cap rate of 8.3%, bringing us to our value of $1,225,000. And on page 8, I have some rent comparables. All comparables are in the subject market, or market region, with lower wall heights, and rents are between $4.75 to $7.50. To support the table rent. And out of my comparables, I believe the subject has the highest land to building ratio. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Questions, Brad?
I do have a couple, just bear with me for one moment here. Which market region is this in?
I'm not sure, or if it's. Six, maybe? I can't tell from this.
Yeah, and I was
because
looking
don't know
at the
if
same thing, and I can't tell.
Yeah, but
But when you're claiming that all of the rental comps are in the same market
Oh,
region,
I
I'm just trying to
one.
identify which one it's in.
yeah.
Oh, you don't know?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry,
Yep. So you'll agree with me that the Wall Street and Aaron Street area is a very different market than along McPhillips?
Yeah.
And you'll agree with me that Main Street is probably not comparable
The building, I find the building's comparable.
in terms of location, though. This is just north of the underpass.
The Main Street?
Yes.
Yes.
So the area is not particularly comparable.
I would agree with that.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Linda?
I don't have any further questions.
Richard?
I have no questions.
Which one of these would be in this area, the Sergeant one? The wall is sort of pushed away from it, isn't it?
If you look at, these are industrial market regions.
Yeah.
So it's not neighborhood, it's one of the,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure, because it comes up when we search our comparables, but it doesn't come up on our brief.
You don't see where it is in the market region. So you're saying Main Street's in the same market region as?
Not all of Main Street is,
Well, this is right by the sun.
This property is close to Selkirk Avenue, right?
This one is. What we're dealing with.
okay, I would say number 6 is, oh, maybe not. I don't know. I don't want to guess,
Yeah.
but I know, because I searched this because I couldn't find any. If I can't find something in the market neighborhood, I'll search by market region, and it'll give me comparables.
But
in
Wall
the market.
Street is 19,000 square feet, which is about the same. It's a newer building, 1990. And it's at 724. And the other one at 885 Wall, which is a little further that way, 11.6 at 475 a square foot. There just seems to be a big difference in between the rents on these. It's hard without seeing the actual condition to say why the variables on these. 1990, I can see why it's 724. It's newer, probably got higher. Doesn't give us the wall heights either. We get this 20 foot. this one is a number of different heights. 12 to 20. No, I'm good.
Just to clarify, I may have misspoken under both the assessor and I are applying 6% vacancy.
No, I'm not talking about the vacancy. I'm
No,
talking
but
about
I
the
thought I said,
You did, yeah.
yes.
You did.
We're both applying 6%, so.
You did, but we already corrected that.
Thank you.
But you didn't talk about the 5%. You did talk about the 5%. Did you include the 5% too on your expenses?
A total of 7%
Yeah.
on the capital.
Okay, I'm good. Uh, 1488 Main Street. Assessed value, when you're ready, Tricia.
Roll number 1407-0433-000. For 2020 roll year, we have an assessed value of $1,021,000, and I have a recommendation on this
Okay.
property to reduce the value by reducing the rent for a value of $881,000.
Brad, you good with that?
Not opposing and not making further submission. You just send it to me later, maybe.
Was there anything else other than
Oh.
rent?
Yeah.
No,
Sorry, I just.
Sorry.
Something you don't want me to hear, that's fine.
We're just doing our thing here.
Do you guys have any questions on this one?
No.
881 it is. Rectified it. We'll move on to 903 King Edward, amount of assessed value. Tricia, when you are ready.
roll number 0700192200. For the 2020 roll year, we have an assessed value of $1,393,000. It's a one-story building, built in 1959, zoned M2, and has a land to plan area of 2.24. Page 2, you'll see,
Are you gonna talk about the institutional and the other part? or-
yes, I'm gonna get to that.
Oh, you'll get that later, okay.
Portion. So page 2, you'll see one lease, there is one net lease in place, there's also a gross lease in place, and only net leases show up on this page. You can see some exterior photos on page 3, and on page 4, there are some, so page 6 and 7, we have our income workup. So there are two income streams on this property. One is taxable and one is school exempt. So I'll start with the first income stream, which is the taxable portion. There's a leasable area of 11,147 square feet with a rent of $4.95. We have vacancy at 4%, expenses of 2%, $3.75 for shortfall rate, a cap rate of 7.1%, giving us a total of $708,000. And on page 7, we have the exempt portion. There's a leasable area of 10,700 square feet with a rent of $4.99. The same vacancy loss at 4%, 2% expenses, $3.75 shortfall, 7.1% cap rate, bringing it to $685,000. And then we have the summary on page 8, combining the two income streams for our total estimated value of $1,393,000. The two income streams, we have an overall rent rate of $4.97.
Questions, Brad?
No, thank you.
Linda?
I have none.
Richard?
No.
Did you want, were you finished, or did I cut you off?
I could go through my rent comparables, but
Well, then I might have some questions.
Go ahead, go through your
Okay,
record.
all my comparables are in the subject neighborhood, not White's region. With lower wall heights, and rents range between $4.75 and $6 per square feet, per square foot, pardon me. That's my presentation, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Brad? Still no questions?
Still no questions.
Good. Let's move on to the presentation.
Thank you. So short and sweet, this property is actually fully tenanted, fully tenant occupied. The exempt portion is the Winnipeg Industrial Skills Training Center, Inc. And so it qualifies for the 40S classification. I took a look at page 6. I actually have one of the assessor's comparables at 915 King Edward Street coming up next week, I think, as well as a number of other ones in the area. So in looking at these lease rates, I was very comfortable in using the actual leases in place. In fact, the Unit 903, we report it, it's not a gross rent, it's a semi-gross rent, which includes management, repair, maintenance, and cleaning, and adjust for those proportionate expenses. We go from $5 a square foot down to $3.57 a square foot. And that was from April of 16. The other one was November of 13, but the rent was stepped up. I just don't have the exact date of that. So we've applied the actual rents in place, which work out to $4.28 a square foot.
428?
Yeah. Same thing in St. James, though, with the vacancy. The apartment's modeling uses 4% based on the Johnson report. I think it should be 6, and appropriately so. The city, and I don't know why, given the age of this property, has applied a 7.1% cap rate. It has low wall height. It is older, and it has a if we look on our page 3, it has a 2.24 to 1 land to building ratio. That's a point where I start to get a little concerned in terms of it forming an additional component of risk. So we've got age, low wall height, and low land to building ratio. So our capitalization rate, based on the information submitted, we think should be more appropriately 8.25%. And based on all of that, on page 11, we're looking for reduction to $930,000. And I've allocated it on a per square foot basis on page 12. And so we show our recommended allocation on page 12. And I am looking for questions.
Tricia?
I just have one question on page 6. The subject leases,
Yeah.
they're virtually the same size, the premises, so how, one is $495 and one is $357. How
Yeah.
are they both market in the same?
Well, they were both freely negotiated between an arm's length landlord and tenant. Neither landlord nor tenant were acting under undue influence. They were both acting in each their own self-interest. All of those form part of the definition of market rent, and that's going into the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 4th edition. And I usually carry around copies of it. I don't have them here today. But it very closely mirrors the definition of market value. That's a market rent. It's a contract rent, it's also a market rent. It's not something from 1995. One of them has escalated, one of them has been a step up, and the other one was negotiated in April of 16.
Okay. Right, you would agree that the 903, unit 903 could probably command $495 just the same as 905?
But it didn't.
But would you agree that it would?
No, in fact, it didn't. The tenant and the landlord agreed to a rate of $5 per square foot, and they agreed that the tenant would not be responsible for paying repair, maintenance, cleaning, or management, and that's how we get down to the net rate.
This is a educational institution?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Linda?
I just have a question to direct back to the assessor.
Go ahead.
So the model, you defined the model has assigned a 4% vacancy rate on this property. How does the model arrive at the vacancy rate?
We, from all of our income and expense mailers that we collect, that's what we input for vacancy.
So it's basically a citywide, how is it?
Yeah,
How
and
is it broken down by?
It's broken down by market region, so each market region has different vacancy rates, and let me just. So, market region 1, for instance, has 3.5% vacancy, market region 2 has 2.5%, market region 3 has 5%, they all have different,
So are the city's market regions smaller than the regions in the Johnson report, or are they? I'm just wondering at the difference.
maybe Brad can answer that.
Yeah.
The Johnson, and if I might,
Yes.
the Johnson report, bear with me while I lay my hands on it, actually has more smaller, more clearly defined areas.
Smaller.
The city, for example, if you look at their map,
Yep.
their market region number 2 encompasses everything from the top end of Winnipeg all the way down to the south, and if you exclude some.
So the market regions are the different colors then?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so
But-
that actually
but
answers my
in terms of the
question.
Johnson report, these are very different areas. We have St. Boniface, we have Transcona, so he comes up with very finite areas which represent.
Right, so they're more specific to the actual.
Yes,
behavior
very much so.
area.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Richard?
No questions.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, guy.
No, no, it's a good question. It's a good question.
Item 9. 1 Allendine Road. Allendine Road. Allendine. Amount of assessed value anyway.
Roll number 07022921000. For the 2020 roll year, we have an assessed value of $1,627,000. And I have a recommendation for this property
Okay.
to reduce the value to $1,341,000.
Adjustments made in
Yes.
everything?
Yeah,
Rent.
yeah, we just renegotiated this, so this is vacancy, cap rate, was that?
I think rent. Yeah, rent is one.
Okay.
Okay, 1,341,000.
Yeah.
Recommendation.
Not opposing, not making submission.
That's accepted for that. We'll move on to the next one, which will be 561 Berry Road. What have we done? Last one.
Roll number 0702108600 for the assessed year, or assessed, for the 2020 roll year. We have an assessed value of $1,128,000. I have a recommendation for this property
Okay.
to reduce the rent and adjust the cap rate for a new assessed value of $1,066,000.
1066?
Yes.
000.
Not opposing, not making submission.
Thank you, Brett.
How
One
easy is
million
that?
and 66, 1066000. Any questions from the panel members? None?
Can we carry on the hearing till, I don't know, 3 o'clock?
We could. We could, very easily.
I'm sure Mr. Whitbread doesn't think that's
Well,
very
it
fun.
might take us a little longer, because I did not do one calculation.
Yeah, and Marcel and I argue a lot, so.
We really have a lot. We have a lot
For a while.
of, a lot less than we used, a lot less than we used to. You want to shut the mic
No,
off?
actually, I guess I've
Shut the
learned
mic
how
off
to do it.
before we
Something
continue
that
this.
gets you. Just like I got it.
Let's not get me in trouble again.
Yes, right.
You know that you were jesting.